Good morning, Jeff. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joe.
Good morning.
Oh,
I can
hi,
hear you.
Randy. Okay.
Joe. Apparently, we're having a little technical difficulties. Can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you, Mike.
Mike.
They thought the Wi-Fi was down, but you know, Randy, you're in the building too, aren't you? Yeah. So, we'll see what happens.
I can hear you, Mergen.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
I can. Good morning. We had a technical difficulty starting at 5 to 9. We were good. Although now I don't see any. Oh, there we are. Okay. Yeah, we're ready to start if you all are okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you,
But
Madam Chair, that Zach Jacobs along with Tom Emmer, they are waiting, and so we can
Okay.
proceed
we'll go
with it.
ahead and open up and then we'll bring them in. That sounds good. Hello, members. Okay. We will call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present and accounted for. At this time, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, members. We are honored to have Congressman Emmer with us today. And I see, I can see the names for both Congressman Emmer and with Zach. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for making time and for putting up with our end of technological difficulties. I'm sure you have none there, right?
We have more than we care to mention. But,
Okay, well then we'll just call it good. How's that?
yours seemed very smooth, actually. Once I figured out that Landon told me somebody else was controlling it and just to sit and wait, it worked out beautiful.
Well, good. Well, our only little issue, and I'm saying this out loud for IT, is I cannot move my board packet on my screen now. I seem to be solely on my monitor, so if somebody could come help me, that would be good. That is not going to stop us, though. Thank you. Wait, let me just move out of the way. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Just a second. Before.
I'm not getting anything.
Well, okay, we're just gonna, oh, wonderful, yay, okay. Thank you. Okay, Congressman Emmer, I'm guessing one of your staff, Zach or somebody else, has got the packet with our legislative priorities. And if you're okay with that, and unless you want to say something, normally we get to do a little great chit chat about things, but if there's anything you want to say to us first, great. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and do a quick overview of some of the things that we've really been seeing, our issues. And again, want to thank you and your staff. Everybody is so responsive and works hard to help us.
Well, no, you've all been healthy, and it's hopefully we're getting through this. Lee, it's great to see you. I hope you have managed through this COVID thing, and Joe and everybody else. Why don't you just run it?
Okay, great. And feel free, as usual, to stop us if there's something you want to make sure that we're hearing. And we've got our great department heads that are going to go through a number of items. First off, though, just want to thank you again for the work that you've done with the CARES Act and with funds that have really made a difference for our businesses, our residents. And I know that Dr. Williams probably has got a couple things to add on this, but I got to tell you, staff have been incredibly nimble, working to change all of our services to meet people's needs, and then also working hard to get this money out, working with our communities, with the HRAs, et cetera. So just know that it really has made a huge difference back here. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add on that? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry,
There you go.
you're muted. But Congressman, just so you know, we got much of those CARES dollars out into the community and the business community, millions of dollars into the business community, into our nonprofit community, and into families and individuals that needed those funds. And we did a true regional effort, community effort. We had the cities, the number of cities involved. We had nonprofits involved, so that we reached out even to those hard to reach communities. So I just want to thank you for that, and it really did make a difference.
Yes, and maybe one other thing with that, just so you know, there's been a lot of coordination with our school districts, with our senior serving organizations and others, because, you know, a lot of the challenges we had, and you're going to hear about broadband again a little bit later, but it really have been exacerbated because of this pandemic. But everybody's working together.
One thing, though, I wanted to ask Mike is, did you get some kind of summary of the PPP loans that the area businesses took advantage of?
I don't have a summary of that, Congressman. I'm assuming I could probably get one.
Yeah.
But we were not privy to that information necessarily. We asked some of our applicants if they were getting those funds to help us make a decision on the second round, the state money that was distributed. Yeah. So we do have a little bit of knowledge, but we don't have a comprehensive list.
Well, to the extent you want it, please let us know, and we'll try to help you with what we can. Because it was a very popular program across Minnesota, but I know that we dealt, and Landon, I think, is still there, but I know that our office dealt with countless employers in the area that worked through the program.
Yes, and I think the other thing to note is staff, even without that list, made sure that when the requests were coming in, to be asking, you know, we're trying to gap fill, you know, who's gotten PPE, what needs do they still have? And that's been something that's been ongoing. So yeah, thank you. I'm sure that would be helpful. So what we're going to do is there's Department of Justice grants, and first I'm going to send it over to Sheriff Stoika, and then our County Attorney Janelle Kendall has a couple of items as well. Sheriff.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So far, my technology is working. So thank you, Congressman, for joining us this morning. And yeah, mine's pretty brief and short. From the Sheriff's Office standpoint, we are the fiscal agents for the Central Minnesota Violent Offender Task Force, which is the drug and kind of gang task force for our local area. It's 14 officers from Stearns County, Benton County, Sherburne County, Todd and Morrison counties. And then the city of St. Cloud, city of Sartell all have members represented on that particular task force. So we applied for a HIDA grant, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with what that is. It's a high intensity drug trafficking area grant. We applied 2 years ago and we lost out to Duluth. Understandably, they're on the border and have you know, international with Canada and just with Wisconsin. We applied last year. We lost out to Olmsted County. I guess also understandable to because they're bordering Iowa, Wisconsin, and bordering that area. So basically, the eastern border of Minnesota is completely covered by some extra federal grant funding that assists them in enforcement, interdiction type stuff, education, prevention, you know, treatment programs, that type of thing. So we thought third time's a charm. So we were trying again this year. We applied for the grant again, basically covering the central Minnesota area, and basically what that would do is literally cover from the Iowa border all the way up to basically Crow Wing County, you know, with Morrison there, and kind of from the eastern border, more or less over to the western part of Stearns County, you know, so most of central Minnesota, good chunk of Minnesota would be represented under that grant. We met before the local group last Thursday morning, and they approved it at their level. It now moves on to kind of a regional level and then out to Washington. So, you know, we're seeing last year in 2020, just alone in St. Cloud, we had 43 overdose deaths. That's up from 22 the year before. Heroin is a big thing here in St. Cloud now. In fact, the newest thing is fentanyl pills, which are extremely expensive, and the Drug Task Force, even at the state level with state grant funding, is having an issue just trying to build a big, significant case because the amount of money that's spent just trying to buy those drugs. We've had a lot of unfortunately, a lot of shootings here in St. Cloud in the recent past. A couple homicides related to some drug ripoffs and things like that. So this grant funding certainly would go a long way to doing some prevention, some extra enforcement out on the highways. We obviously have numerous arteries that run through Stearns County alone, not to mention Benton and Morrison with Highway 10 and 23, 94, 71. Highway 10 has been identified as a main corridor for heroin and opioids to get from Minneapolis, St. Paul up to the reservations to Leech and Red Lake. And so they're having an epidemic up there of overdose deaths. So this would just strengthen our efforts to do that. So my hope is that that if you have any pull over there in Washington, you can put in a good word for us when it makes its way over there. It sounds like it's kind of hopeful that it'll make it through the regional approval and then on to Washington.
How much did Duluth get last time?
That's a good question. I guess I don't have those figures. That was from 2 years ago. Our grant funding would be for about a little over 200,000, but we divide that up amongst 5 counties. We share information rather freely, with all these agencies. We also have the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in our basement at the sheriff's office, which has narcotics investigators. And in St. Cloud, here's one of our issues that we always have in St. Cloud is we're far enough from the cities that potentially the federal agencies, the DEA, the ATFs, could position a federal agent to assist us with getting stuff into federal court. However, what happens is they put somebody here and then they realize that they're close enough to the cities to pull that person back for a lot of cases in the cities. So I was the drug task force commander prior to becoming the sheriff, more or less, and we had an ATF agent that was an asset for us to be embedded in the task force, to be up here to see, because there is stuff that happens outside the metro area, believe it or not, and with that, it's not that the federal partners won't assist us by placing somebody here. They usually do, but then they find that they can use that person for cases down in the cities where, because we're close enough, but yet we're far enough, if that makes sense. So, and honestly, I will have to go out on a limb, and I have seen it because of being the drug task force commander. And this is certainly not anything against the metro area, but a 50-pound seizure in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area of methamphetamine unfortunately doesn't make a big difference down there. Where up here in a smaller community, central Minnesota, you take 50 pounds of meth off, and we do that almost regularly now. There's some 39-pound traffic stops, 50-pound traffic stops in St. Cloud, whether it's on its way through or it's coming here for distribution. It makes a big difference. You actually hit those drug dealers right where it counts when you take their drugs off the streets in St. Cloud. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the metro area, but it's definitely more significant. And we do notice a disruption when the county attorney's office charges out a 10-person conspiracy case here in St. Cloud as compared to 10 people in the metro area. They're confused, they're in disarray, and their organization usually shuts down, if not permanently, at least temporarily, and lets us get a handle on things.
Thank you. And one of the great things about doing it this way is you're getting to hear directly from people you might not always. And this is for everybody else. We get 30 minutes of Congressman's time, so we're all going to have to speed talk. But this was really important because this, and certainly what you're going to hear from Janelle now, both in terms of our domestic violence partnership, supervised visitation, and human trafficking. These 3 are really important issues. Not to say the rest of them aren't. Go ahead, Janelle.
All right. Good morning, Congressman. Good to see you. We have been talking to you about supervised visitation for, 5 years running now. And we now do have an application before the federal government for a supervised visitation center, which would be a direct result of our domestic violence court. Anna Marie's Alliance put through the application. Legal Aid is on board with this, obviously my office. But what changed was space became available in the basement of the administration building. That had been the issue, is that even if we could get all the services in one place, where were we going to put it? And because we're under remodeling right now in the county admin building, and obviously not many people are working from the building, we've been able to craft a space there. The sheriff is on board with that. This is truly a team effort, and we hope that we're successful in this grant. But we've been asking you for this money for years, and thank you. That money was finally allocated, and we do have a $650,000 application that's been submitted. Beyond that, as the chairperson says, the human trafficking work continues. That is grant funded on federal money passing through the state, and nothing to add there other than thank you. We appreciate the support. It's working, and we're looking forward to getting the supervised visitation grant up and moving.
Wow, I thank you. You've been a warrior on this ever since I met you. And it's like a pit bull on a piece of meat. You just don't let it go. And we're very grateful for that. I know everybody is.
That's our impression.
That is an apt description. Yes. Great. Thank you so much. We're going to switch to transportation. I know these are going to sound very familiar to you. And Jody, you're on. These continue to be hugely important issues, and we got some opportunities to hopefully take advantage of. Jody.
Thank you, Terrell. Good morning, Congressman. Rather than go through detail by detail every project that we have included in this packet, I just kind of want to summarize a few things. Just remember, 92% of lane miles and 80% of bridges in Minnesota are on the local systems, so they should not be forgotten when considering federal appropriations or transportation packages. Programs like Build and Infra are great, and by the way, thank you to Stacy Morse for forwarding that information always. I do appreciate it. Sometimes these programs, though, don't work for local projects in rural Minnesota, and just as an example, for the infra program, the permitting process needs to be complete before you can even apply, which generally means the design is done. And some smaller agencies are often unable, and I'm talking, townships, small cities, but they're often unable to spend that money on the design and permitting unless they know that that funding is going to come through. And obviously there are no guarantees in competitive programs. The needs are great. I understand the build criteria is currently being reevaluated by the new administration. There are concerns that rural farm to market, projects won't necessarily fare well depending what that criteria or how that criteria will change. And as an example, rural farm to market routes with multimodal criteria ranking very high may not fare that great because you don't want to build that transit way or, the bike trail in the middle of nowhere with no connections. So basically, as Congress works toward developing an infrastructure package and reauthorization of the FAST Act, just again, local agencies can't be forgotten. We're encouraged by the rumored return of the appropriation earmark, now called, community project funding. I understand there's going to be a new vetting process, which we completely welcome. If you look around the greater St. Cloud area and actually throughout Stearns County, we have several projects that wouldn't have happened without earmarks, and none of them were unworthy. No matter how rural the area, they were all very necessary projects. So as the size of an infrastructure package is discussed, remember that every dollar invested in transportation infrastructure has an economic return of approximately $2.40, and that is more important now than ever. Your packet does include a couple of local project descriptions that we've talked to you about in depth before, so I won't go into those, but I do want to remind you, also important to this area, Interstate 94, and I know you've heard a ton about that, but again, there's going to be a gap in the 6-lane section between Monticello and Albertville, and so we would appreciate any help in finding money. Even though that's outside of Stearns County, it's certainly beneficial to Stearns County, the residents who travel to and from the Twin Cities metro area. And then, of course, Stearns County is a member of the Highway 23 Coalition, so improvements along Highway 23 outside of Stearns County are very important to the county board as well. Throughout the state, there are safety and capacity improvements that need to be made. And again, I would be remiss without briefly mentioning North Star, the transit corridor. So I know some of our commissioners may have a few things to add on those items as well. But thank you again for your time, and thank you for your staff always being very helpful whenever we have questions or need assistance.
Well, thank you, Jody. Real quick, this is one of our priorities and has been since I started. it was building that relationship-based office that could actually turn around transportation dollars. It's the one place where I have hope for this administration still, even though the hyper partisanship we're seeing right now. I hope it bleeds out of the system by April, because quite frankly, the Obama administration missed the boat. The Trump administration missed the boat. This administration has an opportunity to catch the boat by actually putting out a great infrastructure package that both sides can actually celebrate, which we got to start doing that. We've had some success, obviously, but I've been very disappointed that it's been more metro focused. I mean, my neighborhood goes from Delano to St. Cloud, and it's all the challenges that we have on 94 and looking at future river crossing, things like that, and Highway 10. These should be priorities, not just, and I know Anoka's thrilled because they got all that money for the, 169 Highway 10 intersection, and they've been, screaming for it for years. I think the future's bright. All right, and you brought up, I don't call them earmarks. Joe might remember the first time we ever met was at a Central Minnesota Tea Party meeting where it made news when I said I believe in Article 1 spending authority. I think it's ridiculous that it was taken away. The idea that you give it for luxuries, no, and you can curb that. But roads and bridges and things that improve commerce, that is absolutely our constitutional obligation to distribute that money. And it's always going to be, limited resources. You're always going to have to make choices. That doesn't make an earmark a bad thing. It just it requires leadership. And it was abused in the past. Steny, you brought this up. I assume that's what you meant, is that Steny's bringing back earmarks, Steny Hoyer. The problem that Republicans have here is that I found out it's a rule. So our conference rules say we can't do this. So the discussions I've been having with Kevin McCarthy, I think he was shocked when he asked me, where are you at with this? And I said, I think it was the dumbest thing we ever did. Or I should say you, because I wasn't here. But it really is a foolish thing where they abdicated their responsibility. I guess the way we have to handle it on the Republican side is as Steny Hoyer and company move forward and start appropriating money based on, the way you're supposed to do it in Congress, with your representatives actually getting on the priority list, and however they get themselves there, they get their priorities met. Well, guess what? Republicans are going to have to come up with a group that eliminates that rule, and it's going to be interesting because we've got the Freedom Caucus that already they're spouting about how this is a terrible thing, and I can't wait to get into it with some of my more conservative brothers and sisters and be able to tell them that they're not reading the Constitution again. And I know Landon loves it because he loves it when I fight with the Freedom Caucus. He thinks that's fun.
Absolutely. With that, you do have to go to your next meeting. Your 9:30. So we're happy to stay on
because I think there's a couple more that they have.
Yeah, we're happy to stay on, and we've broken down all your requests and to try to follow up on all of them somehow. So
right, the broadband in particular. I mean, it's the chairwoman brought that up to begin with. It's a huge deal, and obviously one of our priorities has been and will continue to be the mental health and substance abuse issues. But I thank you. This is a miserable place. It's got fences and razor wire, and it's time for us to get back to respecting one another and get rid of all this garbage. And hopefully, you're all going to stay healthy. And as we hit the tipping point with vaccinations, we can all get back to living again. Carol, thank you for the opportunity. She there?
Congressman, real quickly before you go, what about visits out to DC? Is that going to happen yet this year? Do you think it'll open up after we get the vaccinations out and things settle down?
Joe, I think we're all being so awful to each other right now that, and I think it's on both sides. All right, a lot of people are pointing the finger at one lady, but Look, this has been coming for a long time on both sides, and I'm hoping that by April, May, if you look at what we're starting to do on our side, and I haven't talked to Angie or Amy in a little bit about where they're at on their stuff, but as we're getting to May, you're starting to see our meetings are getting on the calendars in person, not office meetings, but for instance, meetings outside of here with Republicans. You know, we're starting to go back to inviting people to larger gatherings, and they're popping up on the calendar after. I guess it's the beginning of May, Landon. That's what I've been seeing. Landon, do you have any update on that from the staff level?
In terms of visiting?
Yeah, just opening up Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I think June is probably the earliest.
Oh, okay.
But who knows what happens between then and now. Supposedly we're supposed to get more than 100 million vaccines. And I don't know what the real plan is for reopening yet. So.
And Congressman, I just realized you couldn't hear me, but we still have some technical issues on my end. So I totally get it. I can see that you need to go. We want to thank you. You just let us know what you need. We will get it to you, and appreciate your efforts to hopefully help people overcome some things verbally, if nothing else, you know? So thank you.
Amen. All right. Be good.
Thanks.
Thank you, folks.
Landon, I think you're still going to be on for a couple minutes. Maybe we could just finish up on broadband and on the mental health and substance abuse issues, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Mike.
Well, thanks, Landon. I think I appreciate that the congressman just said that broadband was a priority because, as you know, and he knows, the western part of Stearns County, and of course, much of his district actually is unserved with broadband. And and the RDOF program has done some good, and actually there was a couple areas that were taken in Stearns County with the RDOF funds, but there's areas that the RDOF isn't even enough. We had Arvig was proposing a project in the south of Melrose, but in that western rural area, and we still had a $9,000 per premise gap in funding for that project. So he was wanting like $4 million from the county. So there's becoming more and more the areas that are unserved are becoming more and more expensive to serve as well. So that's a problem that hopefully, and if this second round of relief package could be used on CARES, or if the second round of CARES could be used on broadband, that could very well maybe fill the gap in some of those projects. And I think, as you know, we're leaving our rural America behind in the broadband area. And the second issue there is the St. Cloud Regional Airport Authority, and it's really nothing I think for anybody of our delegation to do right now, but just know that the three counties, Stearns, Benton, and Sherburne, along with the city of St. Cloud, have adopted a resolution to establish the airport authority. We've actually appointed, or we will finish appointing, that new airport commission this month. And then we're going through the process with FAA to what their terminology is a sponsor change. And so we're working through that lengthy process right now. And I just wanted to make sure that you know that we're doing that just in case we need a little help to move it along at any point. But I think we're okay at this point.
That's perfect. I appreciate it. I knew that was going on. Is the mayor also supportive of the plan?
Of the airport authority?
Yeah.
Yes, totally. The city has adopted the same resolutions as all three counties, and they're actually supporting financially the new authority for 10 years and so that we can get it off to a good start. So they're maintaining their financial support and their staff support. We're going to try to weed the authority off that, but they're very supportive and have been a good partner in this process.
Okay, that's good to know. I appreciate it. I'm sure Stacy knows that, but being out in DC, I wasn't aware. And then on broadband, we're completely there with you. Anything we can do to help. The ironic thing of some of the internet programs that come from the federal government is they end up prioritizing like deep rural areas. For example, Paul Bunyan, I forget the exact company, but outside of Bemidji, in an extremely rural area, has fiber optic connection, so 1,000 megabits a second, whereas like a place just outside of St. Cloud or nearby can't get anything. So we see it all across the district, and we'll do what we can to show that these people need something.
Yeah, and I think you have Commissioner Clark is on the NACO broadband task force, and so she's been working along with NACO and with AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties, to ensure that some of this public funding continues, so we can catch up in those areas that are so far behind.
Yeah, it's going to be a priority for us, and to the extent we can talk to the companies that need to build this out too, we will.
That is great. And if there's additional information you have that you want to make sure gets, shared through through NACO, et cetera, I mean, let's make sure we continue to talk, because this is not something we can do on our own. And for our residents and our small businesses, it's just, as you all know, it's really important.
Absolutely.
Great. Anything else on either of your areas? They took me off and put me back on. So.
Yeah, no, I think we're doing good. We're down to the mental health and substance abuse.
Great. Melissa.
Good morning, Landon. Melissa Huberty. I'm the Human Services Administrator, and that's everybody's favorite topic, I know. Just so you know, I don't run the Department of Hell and Human Sacrifice, as I've been told it's called on the Hill. So, but there's, of course, during COVID, we've had a lot more significant substance use disorders, as the sheriff and county attorney referenced, but also mental health issues. And there's two issues I just want to highlight. One is the Medicaid reimbursement rates are so low that we can't get providers to even get to cover their costs. So we're at a time when they're most needed. We have such low rates, we can't get providers to even minimally cover their costs. So that's, if we could work on the Medicaid reimbursement rates, that would be great. Then the other thing is the waivers, of course. You've probably heard about the waivers. There's a lot of streamlining that we've been able to do with telemedicine, providing a lot more services in different ways. And actually, we've been able to assess risk and safety in new and different ways by seeing people in their home environments instead of in the office. And we still want to see people, obviously, face to face. But we hope the days of dragging moms and dads with all their kids into the building just to sign a form or hand in something, would they take a day off of work? Our most vulnerable and people who can't afford to take time off of work end up taking time off of work just to do that. So we're hoping those days are gone. And I want to make just a quick plug on WIC as well. If we can keep the telemedicine in place for WIC, that's significant. We should no longer be making mom who just delivered a baby in the hospital, she comes straight from the hospital to our building to get formula for a baby. That's nonsense. And so a lot of those nonsensical things we used to do are currently, we're able to avoid them because of the waivers, and we'd like to keep some of those sensical practices in place. So those are kind of two highlights for you.
That's perfect. I appreciate it. I've never heard that saying for HHS before. I will probably be using it in the future.
You're not allowed to repeat that.
But they definitely use that in the States, but it's got to probably almost on steroids what you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things on WIC and being able to do some of this remote. We're seeing it across the board with education, telehealth, and a bunch of other different things where in most circumstances, it does make sense to provide these things remotely. You're also kind of seeing a little bit of a backlash with the schools and the need to actually be in person. So I think the federal government's going to kind of resolve a lot of that, but I think we'll be on the side of, if you can do some of this remotely, let's just get it done.
Thank you.
And then on Medicaid reimbursement, is there a particular element of that is most egregious?
It's actually across the board, from dental services to mental health. And of course, what we're doing then is a lot of people don't know, if you don't take care of your teeth, there's significant medical problems that happen. We're paying deep end services all the time for having a lack of reimbursement for that. But also on the mental health side, it's in Stearns County, we've done a lot of work with all of these partners that you see on this phone or on this call to do prevention work. Why wait until everybody's so in the deep end? And it's across the board, really, almost all the reimbursement rates. You can't find providers to do this because they can't meet their costs.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's how we've got the congressman and a bunch of other conservatives on board for Medicaid funding, and especially for prevention services, because we can establish that it ends up saving money
Yes.
at some point. So,
Yes.
yeah, to the extent we can help there, we definitely will.
And yeah, ultimately, I'm just very cheap, and I don't want to spend all that money on the deep end.
Absolutely. I am very cheap too.
I love that. Thank you, Landon.
That's great.
Landon, speaking of cheap, one more thing, just the COVID-19, the vaccine. We've got a great thirst out there for vaccine. And so anything that can be done to put it in the pipeline, the thirst for the vaccine is stronger than beer right now, I believe, in Stearns County, and that says everything.
Absolutely. I heard yesterday Johnson & Johnson had an approved single dose vaccine that they plan to have 100 million in the nation by June, I think they said, which is why I talked about June reopening previously. But yeah, if one company can get almost a third of the country with the other two, hopefully we can get
It
that.
sounds like as of this morning, a partnership with Merrick has been announced, and to go ahead and expand that. So hopefully it'll be faster. And yes, there is, Joe, you're right, that is a thirst.
And the Strib put out an article last week by counties of who has gotten the vaccine, and it was less in the 6th district in Stearns and Benton than most counties. So to the extent that we can highlight the need to get that and where to get it, we'll definitely be part
I
of
think
that.
Melissa might have more to say on this, but Stearns, we're doing pretty darn well. We will take everything we can get. Centricare has been amazing. Obviously, the VA is directly vaccinating their folks, but there's a lot of coordinated effort. We just need more. We need more shots to put in arms.
Yep, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
I know
I did request
waiting.
some. I did request some Johnson & Johnson. It's called Janssen. So Janssen, I requested, it's a one shot and it's much easier storage. So yes, we're looking forward to that as well.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything more from either you or Zach? Anything else we should be knowing about? I know you give us some marching orders when we see you.
No, actually, your document that you gave us was great. That's marching orders for us, and I've talked to Zach and a few other people in our office to get out letters of support for all that stuff. Steve did talk about the high intensity drug trafficking area. We've already been in touch with Dan Miller to send a letter on behalf of the congressman in support of that designation. So that part has already happened. But yeah, we'll follow up with some other letters of support and whatever we can do to talk to your administration as well.
Great. Dr. Williams, anything else?
I don't think so.
Well, you all have been quite generous with your time today. And again, please thank Congressman Emmer. The work we can do together makes a difference throughout this region. So
Will do. And I hope this is in person next time.
Oh, hope so too.
Yes.
It was literally a year ago, I think today, that we met with you all. So soon. Great.
Next
Thank
time.
you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Okay. All right, members. We are going to move on to our public access forum. I don't believe there's anybody for the public access component. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, there is no one, Madam Chair.
Okay, then we'll move to the consent agenda. It's been requested that number 7 get pulled and we move it to environmental services until after we've done our public hearings on our ordinances. If that is okay with members? And I don't know if there's any other items that members would like, either have questions or would like to see pulled. Otherwise, we'll take a motion. And Jeff and Steve, I can't see you, so you'll just have to speak up so we'll know. As somebody who you couldn't see.
I'll move the consent agenda. Persky.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Persky. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Notch. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion? Okay, then we will, the motion is to approve the consent agenda with item 7 being moved to under environmental services. Randy?
Okay, District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3, Jeff,
Jeff, are you there?
we'll move on for now. District 4,
Have to circle back. I guess that's the new government term. I'm voting no. I don't see, we're beating a dead horse on number 7, folks.
Lee, the only reason is we've got a public hearing on a potential ordinance, and depending on what we do with that, that will impact whether we're done with it or not.
Consent agenda item. Then maybe it shouldn't have been on the consent agenda.
Yep, probably. Thank you.
2 more votes to take. See where we're.
okay,
Thank you.
Commissioner Notch, Steve, District 5,
You're muted, Steve.
No, I'm not.
how do you vote?
I think the internet connection is bad.
How are you voting, Steve?
Well, I just had a question. If there's an additional consent agenda item that was sent out, is that included with this?
That was the intention, yes.
Okay. Aye.
I don't know, Madam Chair, if you noted that, but that was all sent out.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Thank you,
District
Steve.
3, District 3, Jeff, are you with us? Jeff, we can see you. Want to just do a thumbs up if you agree? Jeff, we are looking for your vote on the consent agenda. How would you vote? I think we do have a bad internet connection. I don't know what you want to do, Terrell. I can see him, but apparently he can't hear us. So.
Right, I was going to say, we kind of need to get somebody to help him be able to.
Can we do a thumbs up?
I think he's
Madam
got.
Chair, can we just have?
We can do a thumbs up, but I don't think he heard Randy. Jeff, if you can hear us, can you do a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the consent agenda, or send us a chat? I don't know that he can hear us.
Well, while you're waiting on that, just so everybody remembers, it's the add-on item was for the city of Spring Hill. It was a local road improvement program funding application resolution in support of that. And that was emailed out. And I think you ought to note that, that was added.
Commissioner Mergen, can you hear us now? He is not able to unmute. Can you do a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
He just chatted that he can't hear.
Okay, so there is a question in the chat asking whether he could do a thumbs up or down for the consent agenda. IT, I don't know if there's something else somebody can do to help. Maybe we need to get Jeff the number to call in.
It looks like Jeff is doing a thumbs down.
Okay.
So it does pass 3-2 then.
Okay. Okay. All right, members, we are going to move on to our next item, which is conducting a public hearing and considering enacting ordinance number 618. Yes.
Yeah, I think Jeff just said, he said that he didn't know what the motion was, so
Oh,
IS is going to try to call him.
yeah,
And
because we can get him the number. He could see us, but then more importantly, then he can hear us.
yeah, that's that. So I see he's picking up his phone now.
Okay.
So maybe I ought to just pause for a minute.
Right. I think that would be a good idea. I wouldn't want to vote on something that I didn't know what we were voting on either.
No, I don't think he could hear from a while.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Persky.
Yes.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Persky here. Say, on my screen, I'm only seeing myself, unfortunately, and one other commissioner at a time, or yourself, or Dr. Williams. Is that what other people are experiencing?
Are you?
I only get video from one other person.
So are you seeing everybody else's names? Is that what the issue is?
I see their names, and then I see a little warning sign up in the corner of their box, and I only see one other person speaking at a time.
Okay. Well, maybe once IT is done, they can help you with figuring that one out. I can see all of you right now. At one point, I could see myself and all of you on my screen, but I couldn't on this bigger monitor that's in here. So
So if you, have you done the layout, Joe? Go up to the right-hand corner and get the layout.
I'm experiencing.
Yes, I
lack
do,
of
and I've got it on.
You did that? You did the grid?
So I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break while we're figuring out this technology so Jeff can hear. And I know Lee just went to get coffee. So, and then I'll check with IT, Joe, about your issue. Is that okay?
Okay, I was thinking maybe I'll just go out and try to come back in again.
That would be good. So 5 minutes. We'll see you in a minute. 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's the same problem I have, Joe.
Okay, I'll check with them. Or Mike, maybe you can too.
Yep.
Somebody just needs to let me know when we're back live again. Okay, great. We're live, and all of us have been asked to keep our video off. So Jeff, I'm going to ask you just to thank you. It's always much better. Okay, we are back. We clearly are having some technological difficulties that we don't normally have. So members, the suggestion has been made is that I open the public hearing and we continue the hearing to the next meeting, but we continue on with the rest of the reports on our agenda. Anything that needs action, continue until our next meeting. Thoughts? Mike, is there something different I should have said with this, or is there something you want to make sure people have in front of them?
Did you say that to me, Chair?
So
yeah, okay. There's really nothing that I would consider time sensitive on the remaining of the agenda. And I think obviously we don't want to conduct a public hearing under these circumstances, so that makes sense to move that to your next meeting. That also I would not consider time sensitive, although we may have inconvenienced some people, and I apologize for that. The building facilities, it was really an overview of some of the changes that have been made since the last meeting. Environmental services is there's a couple of reports and setting a public hearing. And so you could do some of those if you're comfortable with that, and you could do the administrative items. But again, there's nothing here that I would say absolutely has to be done today.
So I missed pretty much what all went on with the consent agenda. Can people fill me in on that as to what happened?
The item number 7, the CUP was moved ahead, was pulled and put on the environmental services agenda, and then but number 8 was left on the agenda and approved, and I think that was the one that you wanted to talk about, Commissioner Mergen. Yeah. I'm sure the chair would allow you to do that. We can backpedal on that, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you.
Members, so it appears that we can do some business. The reason for any public, I would say watching, but at this point more appropriately listening to us, is to continue the public hearing because we do not have visual capability right now. That is what the thinking is. So members, does that sound okay? I mean, I know that Jeff was looking. Are you okay with continuing the public hearing until our next meeting, which is at the end of the month? Again, so that's a question for board members. Are you comfortable with that? We'll go to the other items in a minute.
I would think that would be the wise thing to do.
Okay. Steve, I know you had suggested that. Lee and Joe, are you?
No problem. I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, Joe? Okay, so
I'm fine with that. However, I'm now having a problem of losing temporary audio now and then. Is it possible for me to call in?
Yes, it is. Does he need a different number?
Commissioner Persky, the phone number to call and the access code is in the chat. I'll put it in there again so it's fresh.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay, yes. So we'll get that phone number in and that access code too.
Go ahead, you can proceed.
And they asked me apparently to turn my screen on, but do you still want everybody else's screen on?
We can take you through the camera shot, not through the computer.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Everyone else should stay on.
All right, Steve, I guess you have to turn yours off still. Sorry.
We're doing you as a camera shot.
So they're doing me as a camera shot. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but. Joe, can you hear us? Are you okay with continuing the public hearing until the next meeting? I believe you said so before. I'm going to send you a chat.
So when it's appropriate, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue the balance of the agenda to the next meeting.
Okay, I think it's appropriate.
You might want to have an agenda and action to continue the hearing.
Okay, right, let me open it and then, because I do need to open it for us to continue it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, okay. The public hearing, we're opening the public hearing on proposed ordinance number 618. Because of technical difficulties, we are going to continue this public hearing until our next meeting, which is on Tuesday, March 23rd. And do we need an actual motion for that? I think I could just continue it. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And then Lee, I heard you say you had a motion about continuing the remainder of our agenda.
I move that we continue the balance of the agenda into the next meeting because we're not getting anything done here.
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Okay. Sounds like we have a couple seconds. Okay, there has been a motion and a second. Unless there is any additional discussion, let's go ahead and take the roll on that motion.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4. Lee?
I can barely hear you, Randy. I think you were asking for a vote, and I'd vote aye since I made the motion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. District 5,
Aye.
District 1,
Aye.
passes unanimously.
Okay, with that, members, I think we all recognize we will have a longer meeting next time. For those of the public who want to be making sure that they are communicating with us, you can do so. You can continue to do so by sending emails and then let us know about your testifying in the next meeting. Otherwise, we are adjourned.
God